obviously this is a complicated show because you're dealing with COVID, but it's also a comedy. So I'm curious for you how it was both in the development of this and also in the writer's room in finding that balance in acknowledging the COVID, but also not digging too deep into the tragedy of what 2020 was.
Yeah, it's a balance, right? I mean, it's tricky, and we've all known people that have really struggled with this, and I knew people that passed away early on, I'm even more recently finding getting some information about really tragic stuff, and so it's yeah, how do you have fun with that, so I think that we a couple things that we did. We set it very early on in the pandemic, so that way we could have some fun with perhaps how naive we were about things looking back on it. The whole show only takes place in probably about 2 or 3 weeks, so we don't get deep into the pandemic, so I think there's some fun in like the fact that we wouldn't just even pick up something we saw on the street and like, where is it? Is it everywhere? Is it, and there were still debates about masks. We have a line in the pilot where it's like, should we wear a mask? And she's like, it depends on what channel you listen to. And it was at a time where people were saying masks aren't, no, not, and whatever. So I think that was a big part of it for us. And then also to have it as the starting off point, the reason this whole show happens is because of it. But at the same time, it's a backdrop. I can remember even we probably had all 10 scripts done. And then I went back and I said, there's not enough COVID in this. I don't want it, because you don't want to also just ignore it. Also, it's not like, oh, okay, and now what? The characters, now we see no evidence of COVID whatsoever. But you don't want to have like everybody wearing masks and so we actually went back through and was like, all right, let's do just a COVID comedy pass. And that's not to say like we're going to just jam stuff in there, but just little things here and there. Just look, even if it's just stuff in the background or a sign in a window, or let's just keep it aware. There's a scene where they're buying or they're getting hot dogs from this apartment building where someone's giving them out free from a window. And in the back, so I put a couple smatterings, and then I was like, oh, have one guy in a scuba, like in a scuba mask, because that's just all he had at his house, and we have people using like a party mask, a birthday party hat, whatever, as a mask, and little things like that, which I think people can laugh at, oh, how naive we were, but certainly in no way do we ever want to look like, oh, we're making light of this situation.
Well, and it's a fun first season in the sense that it has a overarching, obviously, plot with the Congresswoman, but there's
Yeah.
also uh, heists of the week, for lack of a better word. So, what was the fun in kind of playing with that and kind of getting to discover the characters and also play with the kind of the format of both streaming and network TV and the mix of those two?
Yeah, I mean, well, the whole streaming of it all was so much fun for me, because even the length of the shows, to be able to write a 37, 38, 40-minute episode of TV, I'm usually like 21 minutes, 20 minutes. That's what it has to be, and blah, blah, blah. But this was great. We could have like montages, we could tell longer stories. I mean, it was a bear to shoot it all, but it was great to have that latitude. And then, yeah, the whole overarching heist of it all, that was, I mean, it was cool. I love the way it turned out. It's hard. It's a lot of math. It's a lot of putting stuff on dry erase boards and figuring out like a heist. And like, at a certain point, you're like, you have to figure out like, what's the perfect heist? How do you steal this money from this person? And how do you get away with it? And at a certain point, you're thinking like, look, if we can figure this out, why don't we just go do a heist? We'll probably make more money at the end of the day than a TV show. Like this is hard. Like, why do you put yourself in that position? So I did, like, I'm thrilled with the way it turned out. I'm thrilled that we connected the dots. A lot of times people would say it's a comedy, you're thinking about it too hard. Like, and I'm like, no, but it has to make sense. Like, it has to, like, because I like to think of my shows as like dramas. Let's do dramatic stories and then make them funny. I don't want to ever be like, oh, well, it's a comedy, so it doesn't make sense how they stole the money. No, let's hopefully make it make as much sense as we possibly can. But then I'll watch dramas sometimes and I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. But like, it goes by so fast, you're like, okay, you forgive it. So then I let myself off though. So I'm sure there's some things that people are going to go, what? But hopefully they're laughing, and then we get them right through.